Hi.
You probably remember the first time when you first approached Caria Manor. There you were minding your business, trying to progress in your grand adventure. That is, Elden Ring. And now you are on your way to meet Ronnie the Witch, when suddenly, from up above, Carian symbols form above you.
What is it?
Exclaimed the foul Tarnished, and at that precise moment, we are welcomed by a flurry of magical arrows.
Oh, watch out there!
Said the large troll, with what sounds like slight sarcasm at our expense. Well, to be fair, it was that large troll who told us the story behind this warm welcome. His name is E.G.
I am.
But you probably already knew that. Well, E.G. goes on to tell us that the reason for the magical volley of arrows was that when Royal Caria Academy had turned against the royal Carian family, so did the Academy's Knights of the Cuckoo.
Wait. I think we've established that kaka and tuki don't work.
Right. Sorry. Got something that might interest you.
Knights who were not loyal, but were bartered into servitude.
Not enough cash, stranger.
In exchange for glintstone spells from the Academy, such as Scholar Armament, they would in turn offer their services. With that understanding, the Academy granted them free rein to wage war as they pleased. For they were a greedy bunch. And it seems the Academy knew well enough that they were truly looking out for their own best interest. Maybe it's best, or should I say unwise, to attempt to satiate their greed with restrictions. But for what it's worth, they mutually served their purpose, and everyone in turn agreed to the alliance. Greed is what led them, and in the end, it was greed that damned them. Now that the Academy had turned on the Carians, so too did the Cuckoo, marching on to the manor to conquer and plunder. As E.G. said, the Carians were taken off guard, but their strength had not waned. Meeting that charging army in the battlefield, a storm of arrows that rained from the sky, on and on, destroying their offenses. The rain would not stop until every last man was slaughtered. Their greed had made them blind, and now had led them to dig themselves into a hole they were slowly realizing was their final resting place. In a twisted fate, now the Knights of the Cuckoo, who charged the Carian Manor, are enwrapped with an enchanted snare that has turned them all into puppets, forever standing guard, protecting the royal family they had set to plunder and conquer. Dang, that's pretty crazy. But did you know that there's also a crab in Caria Manor?
Hello?
By the way, welcome to my channel, The Game Den. My name is Moody, and today we'll be diving into the history of Caria Manor and how a mysterious crab may play a role in the bigger picture. Of all the things to talk about in Elden Ring, never would I have guessed this would be one of them. But trust me, I think it'll be worth your time. Also,
Thank you.
did you know there was a crab chilling in Caria Manor? And what is this crab doing here? I've played this game for way too long to admit that the amount of hours I've sunk into this brilliant game. No regrets.
Oh, tarnished.
To never have found out that a giant crab was just chilling here until now. It's a bit embarrassing, quite frankly, but it's also absolutely why I love FromSoftware games in general. Leave it to them to have you play their game like it's your job you actually love. putting in all the hours we fans do, like you're a mad archaeologist, on the precipice of discovering the answers to life's greatest mysteries.
Can you fly, Bobby?
Because that's precisely what we are doing. But I digress. But to return to the crustacean at hand, for a Krabby Patty so large in size, he is quite easy to miss during your visit to the Caria Manor. If you want to meet with this permanent sidewalker face to face, this is how you get there. When you get into the manor, our sea friend is right here. Run past the hands, the Muppets, the doggos, and the airheads with the single big boy standing guard. Past the lovely Loretta.
Okie dokie.
Run down the road, and off this cliff. The jump off is marked by the blue dung beetle. Instead of jumping down into the room with Pidia, veer right off here instead and take a leap of faith. Down the road, all the way until you hit the end. And Brachyura is your uncle. So why is it here? It doesn't make sense. Or does it? If you step back and look at the bigger picture, the math simply isn't mathing. There isn't a large body of water at the manor. The pond next to the manor is too small, I think, for his size. And distance is a factor. Liurnia Lake, an ideal home for this crab, but it's quite a ways from the manor for it to be its home. And lastly, he is the only crab in the area, when most crabs are in a cast. There are other crabs that run solo, like the other silver crabs next to Ray Lucaria, but to make my point, he may be a loner, but is still living within the normal area where you'd expect to see crabs. Our guy is not only a long way from home, but as a bottom feeder, has no business hanging out in any elevated area, let alone atop of a watchtower. Excuse me for asking, what in America's name is he doing up there? Standing watch? Maybe in the end, it's just like the lovely hands that roam the area, or the weird abductor virgin on the opposite tower waiting to give someone a hug. They are literally patrolling the premises as they are all standing guard to catch an intruder who is foolish enough to attempt entering or scaling the walls are in for a big surprise. Hence, we see the poor sap that got a little too close to our crab friend here and is now seafood. But the longer I linger watching this oddity just minding its own business, blowing raspberries to pass the time, that's when it hit me.
It can't be.
What if he was the one casting the magical arrows? Based on his placing and his position as an archer would, and would in theory be able to spot us approaching the castle and begin his volley, just like he might have done when the Cuckoo Knights stormed the castle long ago. Nah, he really just is a random crab. I tested it by wasting the sea mongrel. And surprise, surprise, the spell was very much still active. Honestly, at this point, I still didn't know what he was doing here, apart from being on patrol. But, like most things from software games makes, I am left confused and uncertain of its true meaning and will probably never understand. 10 out of 10. But since we're on the topic of spells, even though the Caria Manor is still enchanted with the arrow spell, did you know it can be broken? When you beat the boss of the area, Loretta the Knight, the projectiles no longer persist outside the manor walls. which means she was the one raining down the arrows all along, right? Yes, Ish. It is said that Loretta the Knight's favorite weapon was the bow, a bow that was manifested with magic, a spell aptly named Loretta's Great Bow. She at a point in time served as a royal Carian knight. Wielding her staff, she fought valiantly and mighty on her stallion. As time slipped on, she would eventually find her true calling and set upon a journey. Her goal? In search of a haven for the Albinorcs. They were a people made by the hands of man. Unnatural? A Frankenstein's monster of sorts. Thus many believe them to live impure lives, untouched by the Earth Tree's grace. Treated as such, they were slaved, abused, murdered, and sacrificed. She made a promise to find a place that they can call home. The haven she determined was that of Empyrean Micola's Haligtree. A place that welcomed all of those who were rejected by the Golden Order. Micola would embrace in his future kingdom to be the Haligtree. There you can find the real Loretta, who now serves Micola, guarding and patrolling the Haligtree, which means the boss that awaits you in Caria Manor isn't actually Loretta the Knight, but a spell that projects the image of Loretta, similar in results to mimicry but completely different in implementation. These spirit images, like in this case, seem to be completely formed by magic. And look, to be real, it's also just a reused boss asset. Okay, I get that, but what is cool is even though it may ultimately be just a reuse asset, fromsoftware found a really cool way to thread some story into this. Now, based on what we know, I doubt Loretta was capable of casting this spell. However, I do know of a little witch who could. And just like so much that has happened in the lands between, Ronnie played a hand in it. Well, you see, the manor abandoned state is actually all an act. When you venture within the castle's wall, what you see is a dilapidated state of affairs. Overgrown greenery, no soldiers on patrol, and no lords wandering the premises. Instead, it is overrun by wild creatures left to their own devices, like the crab, the wolves, and the hands. They may have originally been creatures that once protected the manor at one point, but have now flourished and have overtaken much of the manor, including the oddities such as the Virgin Abductor and some Albinorcs, who seem to have been left behind. But guess what? That doesn't mean they still aren't protecting the manor still. And to top it all off, the fortress is still ensnared by the spell that till this day is still protecting the Caria Manor. This is simply another disguise, illusion orchestrated by none other than the Carian lunar princess herself, Ronnie the Witch. Ronnie is practically a black belt in fooling the masses. She practically convinced everyone in the lands between by faking her own death on the night Godwin was murdered. So you can imagine, if she could pull that off, she probably could have done the same prior to the Shattering Wars. In this case, she has fooled everyone yet again with a tale of an abandoned manor that is cursed with a permanent security garden and toy soldiers, leaving the lands between to do the rest and recite the tale of the manor that was once home to the Carians, now a hollow ruin. And in doing so, the world built up Ronnie's secret fortress word by word, and everybody was none the wiser. Don't believe me? Well, we fell for it too. Take it from the horse's mouth. E.G. is conveniently sitting in front of the manor, playing the role of troll out of a job, spreading the tale of the manor that once was. I mean, it's exactly how we, the Tarnished, come to learn of the tale in the first place. But since you are Tarnished, you are able to fight your way through the manor, all the way to the upper floor. That's when the facade begins to fade. Just after you encounter the wolves, one turn and we are greeted with a completely different picture. Before us stands a unit of 3 Lazuli mages, one big sword-wielding troll, The Lazulis are described as studiers of the Carian sorceries, and unlike their brethren mages, they view the moon as equal to the stars. Based on the troll's armor and the sword, we can identify that he is not just a troll, but a troll knight. The sword description says that those whose swords embedded with blue glintstone are in service to the royal Carian family, called into service when the queen invoked an oath they swore. The trolls are treated as true knights of Caria and fight arm in arm with their human comrades. And to add a bit more security just behind our pages, those who serve their nobles to, quote, keep them out of harm's way. These are not bandits, but loyal soldiers protecting something or someone that is of high value. With the final boss of the manor being Loretta, it paints a story of who she is as a knight and person, even when she's currently in service to Mikola the Kind, and attempting to find salvation for the Albinorgs. The memory of her image is still protecting the manor simultaneously. It may have not been Loretta who created the spell. It was most likely Ronnie who had done so, the same way she had created a projection of her mother to protect her after Radigan had left her. But it was the image and character of Loretta personified that ultimately became the guardian that would stand strong on her horse and do as she had done as a Carian royal knight, protected and served the royal family until the very end.
Thank you.